Welcome to the Value Builder Podcast, where we focus on real estate with a value-add mindset. Real strategies, real operators, real outcomes. Let's dive in.
All right. Hello, everyone. Hey, Value Builder community, listeners and readers. Today, I have an amazing person on our pod. He is a great real estate entrepreneur, has an amazing story, and coincidentally has very similar focus as I am. So I'm really eager to get in that conversation. And to start, Grant, maybe you can share about yourself a little bit. What do you do? What you focus? So for readers or listeners who hear about you first time, just get a little bit about yourself.
For sure. Well, thanks, Saul, for having me today. So, as you said, my name is Grant Reaves. I am a co-founder and managing director of Stoic Equity Partners. We are a commercial real estate investment firm based in South Alabama, right kind of near the Florida Panhandle down on the Gulf Coast. Started off in the brokerage community, as a broker, primarily selling limited service hospitality assets for Marcus Millichap. Did that right after school, I guess, starting in 2014, and did that up until we started Stoic really in 2021. So I've always been in commercial real estate. Love the business. It's a great place to be. Brokerage is great. Enjoy being on the principal side now. But I started Stoic with a fellow broker, a friend of mine named Jeremy Friedman, and we'd always kind of discussed getting on the principal side and starting to do our own deals and raising capital. And so really through COVID, when brokerage really slowed down there for a couple of months, we kind of started really discussing what a firm would look like, what we could set up, what we could do. And so, yeah, that's kind of where Stoic came from. Started doing our first deals in, I guess, summer of 21. I did a couple of 4 self-storage deals total, about 220,000 square feet of that asset class. But pretty quickly saw how much supply was coming into self-storage, especially on the Gulf Coast where we're located. I mean, everything through COVID was, white hot housing. And then if you weren't doing housing, you're doing self-storage. And there was just so much building going on that we really sat down and started looking in early 22 of what asset class did we feel like was in high demand, which is important, and very low supply. And we always knew from our brokerage days and just people in the brokerage community that the smaller office warehouse, small bay industrial kind of stuff was very hard to find. And so we really went out into the Southeast and found that story to be true in most markets, really every market. And so really dug into that asset class, made our first acquisitions in, I guess, September of, 22, that would have been, bought a deal in Little Rock, Arkansas. Since then, we've bought, I guess, 16 or 17 small bay facilities, about a million 1 square feet, just over 100 million of asset value. So yeah, it's been a great asset class for us. I mean, you're in the small bay world. It's the same stuff we all talk about. It's undersupplied, high demand. Most markets, rents aren't high enough to be able to build the product. So you kind of have an insulated market. And it's been really great for us. So that's what we do. We buy. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
That's so interesting. And that's another very similar point to mine. That you started in self-storages. One of the asset class we did 2020, 22 was self-storage, and right now we have like 3 or 4 left, last assets, couple on the contract right now. But it's interesting, you're in the flex space, you're in value add. I saw you're in relationship-based philosophy, stoicism. It's funny, it's funny when we're talking for the first time, because that's kind of, that's where I like, that's where I'm at as well.
It's kind of the same. Yeah, I mean, self-storage, I think the fundamentals really good on it in, 2010 to 2020, really into 22, 23. But like, I just feel like universally any asset class that you can build and sell at a premium, make profit on CO. And I mean, that's kind of what happened to multi. That's kind of what's happening with self-storage. I mean, those asset classes, the fundamentals might still be there, but it's just sometimes they're going to get overbuilt.
Now, remind me, when did you start in real estate overall? What was your first time?
I started in brokerage in, I guess, 2013, 2014, right after college.
All right. So you've seen, those, what I call movies.
Yeah.
My first time in real estate was 2008, but it's similar. So I'm saying to some folks that I kind of seen this movie play out many times already. I've seen it in housing. I've seen it in apartments. I've seen it in self-storages. I've seen it in industrial, and I see it right now in flex, meaning when the asset classes become so in demand in some kind of, the capital and demand goes dramatically higher than any other asset class and kind of wanes down. So with that, do you see similarities, and do you see any similarities, any other waves than when the pricing kind of gets distorted compared to other asset class, right? We remember with like a partners of self-storage, at some point we're just so, higher valued in terms of cap compression compared to asset class. Do you see that in a small bay industrial? And if you do, how many months do you think we still have left until music gonna start dropping? And
Yeah.
I'll give
I
my
mean,
two
I
cents.
definitely, yeah. So, I mean, my 2 cents on that, and I would love to hear yours. So, like, I really think the biggest thing that will make the runway longer for small bay is the lack of new supply. And
Uh-huh.
so I do feel like a lot of those asset classes that are, the in vogue asset class, everyone starts jumping in. The value add strategy just goes, through the roof. People are buying insanely low cap rates and stabilizing at extremely low yield on cost. But then you also have a lot of supply come in when that happens. I mean, you kind of use self storage, right? So like
Yeah.
2014, 2015, rates weren't really high enough to be able to build new supply. So, it's a good value add kind of strategy to go in there, buy some self storage, value add and push rents a little bit, but you didn't really have a whole lot of people coming on top of you.
Uh-huh.
Well, I feel like when that cycle kind of ended or started to end in maybe 22, 23 is when you saw all the supply dump in. So like, I
Yeah.
really feel in small bay until we see a lot of new construction come in, which means rates are going to have to get higher. Then I feel like we're a little bit protected. I agree with you that like we're already starting to see it. Like we started buying this asset class at 22, 3 years ago, and like the amount of people we compete with on deals is much greater than it
Yeah.
used to be. And pricing, sellers have gotten a lot more aggressive on pricing. So it definitely has happened. But I think, but kind of my overall thing is I think we have a few years until
Bingo.
rental rates are high enough. What do you
Yeah.
got? What do you
So,
think?
so my take one is all same thing. I spoke with my partner Shay a few times, and I said, no, I don't have crystal ball, but I think we have 24 to 36 months until it gets saturated in terms of
Yeah.
supply and people are competing. And we see it right now already. Of course, I my pricing went up. My first true small bay about 2020, I think about $40 a foot, and right now,
Yeah.
it's double of that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can share what's your first deal, how much you bought it for a foot at that time, and how
Yeah.
much you're trading right now.
So we bought our first deal. It's 48,000 feet in Little Rock, Arkansas. 16 3,000 square foot unit facility. It's been really great for us. We underwrote rents at like 775. They signed rents at 850 on about half of the GLA so far and continue to kind of roll them over. But we paid 3 million for that. It's about $70 a foot.
Uh-huh.
I think throughout our whole portfolio, again, I think 1,000,001 square feet. I think we paid on average about 91, $92 a foot. We have some larger kind of assets that trade a little bit higher, but we just bought 2 deals and really great deals, really, and like for like $55 a foot. So I mean,
Amazing.
today that's great.
Wow.
Where's most of your portfolio in the small bay world? Where's most of your stuff?
Land, Ohio, some in Florida, but we sold. We actually made a decision to get out of Florida. I don't know if you have
Yeah,
anything. Um, and it's not like it's a wrong market. We just don't have enough concentration over there. And since we're
yeah,
selling self storage facilities over there, we didn't have enough boots on the ground. And my experience, they don't have enough concentration. If I am not
yeah.
there a lot of times, or I have manager, it just somehow, even if it's a small bay, it's not intensive management as self storage. But we're not able to optimize this portfolio and something going off
Yeah.
the rails, and you
Kind of
don't
falls
have a
to the wayside a
relationship
little
with it.
bit if you're not like eyes on the ground, eyes on the ball
Exactly,
all
yeah,
the
and
time. Yeah,
and you don't have I mean, if you're dealing with some uses issues, automotive stuff, and you have a relationship with a planner and
yeah.
fire chief, and in that county, it just becomes kind of difficult. So we decided go back right now closer to where I'm at, and I'm in Chicagoland. So Chicagoland and closer Midwest. No, so we're getting out of
I think
Florida.
that's smart though. I feel like a lot of the Midwest, like even into the Rust Belt, is like really starting to get going a lot. Like I feel like the Southeast was like kind of the darling of the ball coming out of COVID or coming through COVID. But and obviously we're a Southeast based firm. We buy exclusive in the Southeast, but we looked at like we owned a deal in Louisville, Kentucky, which is obviously right next to Ohio. And like the more we've looked into like Cincinnati and kind of that Rust Belt, even over into the Midwest and into parts of Oklahoma or Nebraska. Like I do feel like a lot of that area is starting to kind of to get legs and it should be a good bet in my opinion. We've played with the idea of going up there.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now let me get me switch gears, and maybe we'll go back to
Yeah.
blocking and tackling how to buy those.
Yeah.
Stoic Equity Partners.
Yeah.
I mean, stoicism is something that I really I live by. I read everything with Dan, Holiday and
Yeah.
meditations, and I can go on and on. But tell me a little bit about that. That's
Yeah.
intriguing. How does Stoic philosophy influence your approach in business and investment decisions and stuff like that? If you can talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. So we came up with the name, again, I guess about 2020. I think Jeremy had just read Ryan Holiday's book, so it's fresh on his mind. But essentially, the way we look at it, it's a little bit of an aspirational goal because we're not always as stoic as we should be. But overall, real estate transactions are hard. Running real estate is hard. Things go wrong all the time, and we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we react to it, right? And so we've all done a lot of real estate transactions. We've all seen, very volatile buyers and sellers that every little thing on a contract, it's the world's ending and everything's coming down and this, that, and the other. Or, there's a roof leak. What are we going to do? And you can't look at life like that. And you can't look at real estate like that because
Yeah.
if you do, it'll drive you crazy because this is a long game that we're all in for a long time. And if you freak out for every little thing, it's just going to be death by 1,000 paper cuts. Like you just can't do that. And so being able to stay even keeled, look at the issue and not get emotional about the issue and just attack it and really look at the long term. I feel like it's so much more important than
Yeah.
staying very volatile. So that's where it came from. It's been a good name for us. So it is funny when we first did that, we were like, oh, we really didn't want to name it after like Jeremy's last name is Friedman, do like a Reeves and Friedman investments.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, I just kind of wanted to do something that was a little bit more like autonomous of us. I mean, I would love to have a company that Jeremy and I'd retire from that still operates, after we're gone would be great. And so that's why we kind of wanted to do something that wasn't like a name based firm. And
Yeah.
but yeah, a lot of people comment on Stoic. It's funny.
Yeah.
I did not realize how big that was until we named our company that.
Well, it's a great name, and I really want to give you the props because when you think about it, it's not only that you're communicating your values within a team how you should be,
Yeah.
but even actually you repel people who are not following this, right? So
Yeah,
it's almost like
exactly.
a filter for everyone else. It's a great
Which
name
is
because
important on building your team as well. I mean, nobody wants, we've all had volatile coworkers that freak out, and that's not fun to be around. Nobody wants to be around that day to day. I mean, we spend more hours in our office than we do at home. So you're going to spend a lot of time with these people. You want to make sure that they're enjoyable to be around. And I would a lot rather be around someone stoic than volatile.
yeah, it's almost like a free or like imposed advertisement of core values with actually
Yeah.
having in the wall. You see that in the name. I mean, you don't have to communicate the values outside
Yeah.
of that. You kind of know what we're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, that's how we started. Like we do EOS. Do you know what that is?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, so we do EOS. So like a big part of EOS is having your core values and kind of discussing those with investors as well as employees. But yeah, we always start out with stoicism because it's like, well, obviously we find that very important. We named our company after it, so it's kind of the first one that we always start on for sure.
All right, so let's go back a little bit more in blocking and tackling. You mentioned in one of your, I believe, LinkedIn posts that buying below replacement cost is a key strategy for you guys. Can you walk through this, maybe a specific deal, and maybe why is that? I mean, what's I conceptually understand, but maybe for the viewers, maybe there's some other insight what you're hedging.
Yeah, so what we're looking at there, like I said, we bought our portfolio for low 90s a square foot overall average. Like we've had stuff that's as low as $50 a foot and up to I guess about $105 a foot is the most expensive that we paid. But anyway, we've run numbers to build small bay. I mean, on the Gulf Coast of the U.S., like Panhandle, really Tallahassee to Baton Rouge, like that whole I-10 corridor, there's really no product. And there's a lot of population growth. There's a lot of industry. The ports are doing well down here. There's a lot going on, but there's no small product. And so we've run numbers many times trying to figure out how to make the numbers work. And every time that we do that, we end up around call it $150 to $165 a square foot to build new. So obviously we're buying well below that replacement cost, but originally that just gives us a good hedge to where we don't have to have as high rates as everybody else. I mean, if you're building a deal at $155 a square foot, you're going to need to have at least $15, $16, $17 rents to be able to make that deal pencil by the time that you add in everything. So being able to buy really low where nobody else can come on top of you. I mean, and again, we don't really mind if someone comes on top of us because the rates are going to be so much higher than we are that we can push up 20%, increase the value of ours, and still be the cheapest alternative. But it just gives such a better hedge than the whoever's the highest on the block, right? So if somebody comes and builds up $160 a square foot next to us, we're at $85 a square foot. We can charge a lot less rents and still get the same or better yields. It's just a lot better downside protection.
150, 165 if you would build it, right, in your area. That's including
what we found.
land and soft cost, everything included, all in, right?
Yeah, and that's nice Class A tilt wall, 26-foot clear. Like that's very nice product. I mean, I understand that there are some people that are building more like almost like contractor garage, like single office, one bathroom and warehouse, metal building, front load, roll door. Like you can build those cheaper, but like what we're talking about building is like the more Class A kind of small bay, 4,000 to 5,000 square foot unit kind of stuff.
What is your clear height in average in your existing ones? My experience that I have to buy them with less clear height that people want right now, but maybe you can talk about what's an average and what's your kind of minimum. I'm not going to buy that low.
Yeah. I mean, we have stuff down to 12 and in the right market, the right facilities, it's okay. I mean, fortunately in small bay, we're not dealing with a lot of like racking. Like, you talk big industrial, they need 32-foot clear for three levels of racks, right? And so like that's a non-starter. Fortunately in small bay flex, like you don't really have to have that much clear height because a lot of people aren't utilizing it. But I would say throughout our portfolio average is 16 feet. We have a couple of facilities that have like 2-story office in the front and then like 22-foot clear in the back, which is nice. But I will say you go through those facilities, no one really uses that height. So I really feel like if you're 16 to 18, that's pretty good in our industry. Again, just because you don't have a lot of racking, you don't have a bunch of like big logistics stuff. That's not really what these people are using these warehouses for, in our opinion. So
yeah, that's the same thing I see on my end. I will not go below 12. Occasionally, I did. Also, one, that's probably going to be digressing a little bit on the topic. Besides buying existing flex, we do adaptive reuse on some of them.
Like on retail, or what have y'all done?
We've done both. We cut it up mall, Sears box in a smaller base. And let's say last project we did was office park that was in Beaver Creek, Ohio. There was about 200,000 square feet, 8 buildings. They were 1-story, and there are a couple actually 2-story buildings. And we just demoed everything inside, and we sliced like a loaf of bread. We spent about $30. So I want to tie up on the clear heights. Yeah, we leased it fairly quickly. One building had a lower clear height, about 10 feet. So actually it dropped to 10 feet, and 12 feet was quite dramatic to lease up. 12 feet, we're still able to lease it.
But you could see a difference, though, between the 10 and the 12. That's interesting.
Yeah, between 10 and 12 was quite dramatically, significantly. People just do not want, even though they don't have racking, but somehow it feels tight.
It feels small. Yeah, it feels tighter. And that makes sense. How, that's interesting that y'all did that. We've looked at doing that with a couple of office parks as well as retail. I think that there's some strip centers out there that are, kind of perfect for it. You can cut in and roll up on the back end. We just haven't done it yet on the adaptive reuse. Like, has that been a good strategy for you? Or like, tell me a little bit more about those deals and kind of what your thoughts are on them.
Yeah, so that was, we bought it for $27 a foot. We just refinanced it. So we bought it $4.5 million. We put about $3 million into it. It just appraised 13.7. We thought we were going to do it within 2 years, but actually it's probably going to be like 3 years. We had to take quite big risk because we bought it with the right zoning. It was R&D, research and development. That was like lab. We bought it from Ohio University. So it took me about a year to rezone it, and it was quite intense, but finally I got warehouse and office approved, and right away, we increased the value of the building. We have 10 acres of available space, so maybe when you talk offline, maybe we can build it if you already build it. I haven't built anything new in Flex. I build residential, but if you're building, probably we should talk offline. But anyway, the numbers were 4.5 by, it was like $29 or $27 a foot, which is, it was practically vacant or more than half vacant. We had about 30 white box, most expenses, splitting utilities, electrical, gas, stuff like that. That's a significant expense. And Yeah, so we spent about the same as we bought it, right? And
Yeah,
yeah, but
that's cool though.
yeah.
So were y'all able just to cut in roll ups on the back of the buildings, or kind of how did y'all access your warehouses?
So pretty much what we didn't know. So we just demoed inside and we cut a bunch of drive-in doors from a front. And I can
Over the
send you a
front.
link how
Okay.
it looks. Yeah. So
Yeah, shoot, Jimmy. That's really interesting.
yeah. So pretty much it's yeah. So the building, if you imagine, multiple buildings called like 20,000 square feet, and you just cut them as a loaf of bread, and around the perimeter we're just cutting a lot of garage doors.
Yeah.
That's
What
how.
size suites did y'all do in that?
Between 2, 4, and 5,000. I would say five probably on
Yeah.
the higher end, but I would say sweet spot like 3,000 square feet. Yeah. And we didn't do individual bathrooms. We did actually mostly common bathrooms. Let's say one bathroom between 4 units. So we had to do like a whole hallways of corridors connecting those bathrooms. That's how we did, but it was okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't too big of the pushback. Another deal we did in Milwaukee where we bought two larger buildings, but they were positioned nicely, kind of thin buildings in length, and it was 15 acres. So we also sliced them from single users to we made like a 20 20 tenants. I I like the strategy, but I like the strategy is buying existing one at higher rates.
Yeah.
But it is less risk involved because you're leasing up faster. You can probably done it within a year, right? And all those big
Yeah.
developments, we thought we are going to do it within a year and a half or maybe 2 years, but actually it was 3+ years, and plus the
They
cost.
always take longer than you think, right?
Yeah, yeah, and double the cost, right?
Yeah, double the cost.
But
Always be more expensive,
the
but
value bump is of course significant, in those
oh, it's
developments.
huge,
Yeah,
especially if you're buying stuff like you said, $27 a foot. I mean,
yeah,
you put a lot of capex and still make that work, which is cool.
yeah,
That's a cool strategy. Yeah, we've looked at some of those, just never pulled the trigger on one.
yeah.
That's cool to hear that y'all have actually done it. We have done some that are like too much office. Like we bought a facility that was like 75-80% office, and tore out a bunch of office, and that's been a good
Mhm.
strategy for us. Just kind of, they were built in the mid 90s, were built out. A lot of the suites is 100%, but still have the roll ups. They're just sheetrocked over and just going to pull out of that office. All the bones are still there. Unfortunately, in that strategy, the plumbing's still there, which is the biggest thing, right? Like having the plumbing already in place is huge. So, yeah. So, yeah, no, I like it. I mean, I think decrease in office and increase in warehouse works well.
Yeah, yeah.
The
Well,
funny thing about
yeah,
that is, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, because again, the pricing I think is distorted while the office in dumps. I was looking yesterday at the building with my partner. So the pricing, for example, in the flex space was in Norbrook in Chicago and there, which is very dense. The gross rents is probably on the office about $20, and on flex is probably 15 to 17, depending on the height. So I remember, back in the day, it was about half, right? The warehouse flex would be half of the cost of the office, and right now it's almost like 80%. So of course it makes sense just to demo the
Yeah,
office because you can keep those buildings full, right? When you have to pay,
exactly.
you have to pay in our market to the for office lease up, you probably pay $2+ a foot. So let's say a 10-year deal,
Wow.
yeah, 10-year deal, you're gonna pay $20 for on leasing commissions, right?
That's strong. So you're saying that on the flex side, y'all are getting 15 to 17 net or gross?
I was talking gross. I was talking
Yeah.
gross.
So that's
Yeah,
strong, though. I mean, that's
chems are about $5 in the market, and maybe 5.5 all loaded.
so 10 to
But
12
yeah,
net. Yeah,
10. Yeah,
that's
exactly.
similar to what we have throughout our portfolio. We're mainly 10 to 12. We have a couple that are down
Yeah,
at like that $8 range, but for the most part, they're 10 to 12 net. Um, but yeah, kind of similar. Yeah, but that's what I was gonna say too. As I was talking to a broker, kind of more old school broker the other day, and talking about what we were doing, and he was like, "So y'all blend your rates, right? Like do like $6 on the warehouse, like $15 on the office." And I'm like, "No, you can get
no,
higher on the warehouse than you can in the office," and it's just funny. And
exactly.
like that whole world is much different than it used to be.
For me, it's like I don't tell them, but look, for me, it's like cheaper is to demo the office than
Oh,
to pay the
100%.
commission and rebuild it again in 5 years.
Percent. No,
You
it's so much
know,
easier. That's the
exactly.
way we look at it too. No, I
Uh,
like that. I like that a lot.
All right, another blocking and tackling question. How do you lease up? On our end, we mostly lease up in house. I would say 80% of lease up is done in house, literally virtually remotely. If it's a heavy lift, we probably helicopter, a manager. GM for half a year or a year, but mostly we lease up in-house. I'm just curious how you guys do that.
Yeah, we've used all third parties. So we came from the brokerage world, and so we had a lot of good broker contacts. And so what we've done is we also use third party property management. Just allows us to be a lot more geographically diverse. We do all triple net leasing. It passes through the tenants, so it's not like it really drags on our returns or anything like that. We have discussed taking renewals back in house. So like traditionally, what we've done is had a leasing agent. Usually one of the national firms, a Collier, CB, Cushman, whatever, will do the leasing as well as the property management, and that's worked well. But they've also done the new leases as well as the renewals. We've talked about doing some more of the renewals in house just to kind of have some more control over that. But yeah, I mean, I think that the property management thing eventually makes sense for us, and leasing in house as well. But from where we sit, we're just so small still. It's like we don't really have that economy to scale in one market to really like make that make sense at the moment. I mean, we're in 6 different states on our smaller portfolio, and so I don't know. I kind of look at it both sides. I think that it's nice to have that level of control and that level of transparency. But we also have good property managers that give us a lot of transparency, and we talk to them all the time, so it helps too. I don't know. Do y'all do management in house as well as leasing, or what all do y'all do?
Yeah, pretty much. We kind of use the same model like we use for self-storage facilities, because when we went to the markets, we didn't have enough concentration. And self-storage is what we did. We kind of did quasi-remote in-house and manager, part-time manager on site. So let's say it would be someone who walks the facility in self-storage maybe twice a week, and he gets paid, $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month. And then we have virtual asset managers who are managing facility just virtually, and we do offshore, in South Africa and Philippines and Colombia, and
that's similar to how we do our self-storage too. It's virtually and has a guy
so
that
pretty much
walks
we
through
kind
it.
of use the same approach, and we did the same approach for Flex. Now, I would love to use actually for leasing third parties, but why went in house? We're just not able to find brokers who put enough attention leasing those 2,000 square feet units if they can lease 50,000 square feet in.
Yeah.
So let's
It's
say
kind of hard because you want
take
somebody you want somebody that's younger in the game to where they're hungry enough to go do it, but also have the knowledge. It's like kind of it's an important niche to find someone to do that, because you don't want the guy that's directly out of college that has never leased anything, but also you don't want the 55-year-old guy who's a top industrial broker, because I mean it's just human nature. Hey, he's not really going to go push 2,000 square foot units when he's going to make $5,000 when you go make $100,000 leasing 50 to 100,000 square foot bulk industrial. So yeah, it is interesting. We've done a lot of teams. Like we've hired a lot of like the big industrial guy that has like a junior, and the junior's the one that actually pushes it, and that's worked pretty well. But yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's
man.
amazing.
It's fun. Yeah, I mean the management of these things fortunately is pretty simple. We do have an in-house asset manager, we have an in-house controller that they sync monthly with the property managers, as well as they talk at least bi-weekly with the leasing agents. So we have a lot of touches, even though we're not the ones actually boots on the ground, but it's good.
Awesome. Now let's touch maybe, I'll do my little plug-in here. I think, many, many listeners know sourcing on the deals. I'm just curious to hear where you source. I think our deals right now is 50% from brokers, 50% direct to seller. Self-storage, we're probably 80% from sellers, direct to seller, and 20% from brokers. Flex is still very heavy on direct to seller. And the key of our success in self-storage was that we built our own list, and we thought we're going to buy, multiple states. Eventually we bought it, I think in 6 states, and music stopped, and we're not able to utilize the entire list. So this time we're doing a little differently. We are launching actually this weekend Industrial IQ software, where we will load the list. It's pretty much we scrape manually. We are still scraping manual list for small bay industrial, because there is no one list. It's kind of hidden within between self-storages and industrial. No one has the right list, and there is no direct contact information for the and there's no real clarity on leasing data. So we're just aggregating, cleaning manually, through VA, scrolling through the maps. It's about 250,000 properties nationwide. We're going to have a list of small bay industrial. We're going to aggregate live data on the pricing as much as we can. There is no pricing available on small bay, right? So because sometimes actually pricing in the markets it really changed dramatically from one part of town, even Chicago, right? I know
Yeah.
one part of town could be $12, and south part of town is like $8. I think that's like
Yeah.
$50 in value, you know?
Yeah. It's a lot.
And it's not like, big bucks. It's really changes within 3 to 5 miles, the pricing.
Yeah.
So we're rating that, and we have a boot camp. 20 operators are flying in this week, and we'll be teaching them and see if we can partner up in one shape or form. So anyway, so that was a little plug-in. I'm just curious, how do you source your leads?
Yeah. No, that sounds super interesting. Keep me in the loop on that as that progresses. But we've kind of done similar. So what we did is we went into all of our target markets that we wanted to be in the Southeast, database them, whether that's, CoStar, Google, Maps, just finding the properties we want to own, putting all those together. And then we go into the markets and find whatever broker is leasing and selling most of the flex space. I mean, usually in these we buy in a lot of secondary markets, so maybe 1.5 million people in the MSA. So kind of smaller markets where there's maybe 2 or 3 guys that they are the flex industrial guys. So then we'll go to those guys, take them this list and just be like, look, these are the 70 properties we would like to own in your MSA. Call these people. And to us, we found that worked really well just because, yeah, I can cold call a seller, did that for years as a broker, convince them that we're real, do all this kind of stuff. But we found that a lot of times, that broker that we bring this list to, he already knows that owner. Let's call him Bob, owner Bob. He's taking leases there. All he has to do is call him back. Hey, I got this group out of Alabama. They're legit. Do you want to sell your property to them? It just makes our life so much easier and be able to scale a lot more deal flow. By kind of utilizing brokers. We're using our list, but it's really kind of like a third party of our acquisitions team just to be like, see that property, go find out if we can buy it. And so that's kind of how we've done it a
So you use your list and you task the local broker to go after it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great approach, yeah. I mean, did you notice that compared to self-storage, small bay industrial sellers are way more sophisticated and they have a relationship with the broker? On the self-storage route, we just saw that so many sellers do not even have relationship with the broker and try to sell themselves or whatnot. No,
I just think that industry is so much more, owner operated on the self-storage side. I mean, the small bay world it's a traditional commercial real estate food group, right? Self-storage is kind of like a specialty asset class. Industrial real estate uses brokers, they're in the game. They use them for leasing. They use them for property manager. So that is a lot more tied in with I would say the office, retail, kind of traditional commercial real estate where it's a lot more brokerage heavy. And so being able to go through the brokers, I feel has worked really well. So they all know each other. It's all small, kind of fragmented, localized real estate markets where you can get in with the brokers. They know what you want to buy and they'll just feed you.
Amazing. Awesome. Yeah. Now, I normally like to finish with a personal question, if I may. Can I?
Yeah, of course.
All right. So the question is, and I have these cards, that usually pull one. And the question is, what are you excessively anxious about? One thing when it comes to business. So what are you excessively anxious about?
Always pressing to make sure that you're doing enough. In entrepreneurship, you can, you can work 24 hours a day. I get up at 4 a.m. I work till late at night. You do a lot, but for some reason, I feel like in entrepreneurship, you always feel anxious that you're not doing enough or that you're behind what everybody else is doing. I don't know if everyone feels like that, but I always feel like that. I always feel
can relate to that.
You get on LinkedIn, you talk about LinkedIn, you get on LinkedIn, you're like, these guys are killing. What do we do with our lives?
Exactly.
There's a lot of that. So I think that would be my answer.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that. No.
Yeah.
That's definitely common.
What would yours be?
Mine would be in business quality, meaning I always feel that it's just not good enough. And I can always push a little bit more quality. Maybe I can write an email a little bit better. Maybe that marketing flyer could be a little bit better. Maybe that's, if you're talking construction, maybe just even, site or landscape, it could be always a little bit better, And this is just, I'm really anxious about that. As good as it gets, I'm always just push it a little bit harder, a little bit better, slide a little bit better, And it sometimes drives my team nuts.
That's a good trend to have.
Compared to what? I'm like, compared to what? I don't want to compare to this guy, I want to compare to my highest standard.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing to do. I think that makes a lot of sense. It is interesting that you talk to people and it's you have certain people that are 80% is good enough, move fast, and you have certain people no, it has to be absolute perfection every time. And I don't know if there's right or wrong. It just kind of
I
works
mean, it's
differently for
double-edged
different
sword.
people.
Sometimes it
It is.
slows you down. Sometimes it slows you down because you just over complicating it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's my trait.
That's cool. I like that.
All right, so I really enjoyed the conversation. Hopefully, we can do it again.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Maybe I can put together in a few months, 2, 3 people who are in a very, very, I mean, we're in a very similar niche, and
Yeah,
we're not in competing markets. We can just kind of, brainstorm without agenda like this time. I really enjoyed it.
for
So
sure.
to leave our listeners, where can I find? Do you have anything that you want to share with listeners? You raising capital? You looking for deals?
Yeah.
I mean, where can I find you?
Always looking for deals in the Southeast, 50 to 150,000 or really 50 to 200,000 square foot value add, small bay flex industrial. On the capital raising side, we are raising our new fund, SCP Industrial Holdings 2 LLC. Easiest way to get in touch with me, though, is on our website, which is Stoic, STOIC, EP for equitypartners.com. So stoicep.com. If you go on there, my email's on there. Love to chat with you and connect with anyone who wants to talk about, flex industrial, what we deal with, what we do. And yeah, it'd be great.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Grant. I really, really enjoyed it, and looking forward for next call as well. Good luck to you, man.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me on. It was awesome.
You've been listening to the Value Builder podcast. For more strategies, stories, and episodes, head to valuebuilder.co or subscribe on your favorite app. Always make it better than you found it and keep adding value. See you in the next one.